Hello, it is my pleasure to welcome Donna Charland from Outside Education onto the Neurodifference podcast here today. Donna, really, really good to have you here. Could I ask what led you to starting Outside Education and training? And could you tell myself and my listeners more about the services that Outside offers?
Yeah, no worries. Well, Outside, believe it or not, is 10 years old next year. That's crazy, Rhys, isn't it? It's
Wow.
gone so fast. Like, wow, what a 10 years, honestly. And yeah, in the beginning, all those years ago, I think I started it mainly because I really loved talking about autism specifically. That to me, autism has always been my special interest, my fascination, and I always loved kind of learning about it, learning from others, and felt really passionate about providing that information to parents, particularly. So that's where we started 10 years ago and why we started. I really, really wanted to kind of be able to be there for families and to teach them, what I had learned. And then the services grew from there. So in the early days, we used to do a
Oh,
lot of family seminars on different topics. We'd have very popular topics. Rhys would be generally around understanding autism, understanding behaviour, sensory processing differences, managing anger and anxiety used to be extremely popular. You can understand that. And then we started to get asked to do professional training as well. So the very first customer that I had was Heathrow Airport from a training professional point of view, which is a bit random. But at the time, they really wanted to enhance their customer service, their passenger assistance programs, and they didn't really know how to do that or what to do about that because it is, of course, a massive airport. So I started to kind of work with them and deliver training to them so that they could get a little bit more of an understanding about it and then sort of work with them on other pieces. Um, and then, it kind of went from there. I started to work with the police then about 7 years ago. And again, it was because a dad came on one of my training courses. And he asked me if I did professional training, and I said I did. And that really kind of led on to a lot of things, really, Rhys, because once again, they knew and understood autism and neurodivergence a bit better, then they could see what they needed. And they decided then to kind of keep me on a retainer so that when the cases came in, they had access to that kind of expertise and it really helped them to manage those cases. And then a few years in, they wanted to look at the diagnosis because they realised the waiting lists are so long, and they still are, let's face it. So they couldn't have people waiting that length of time to really understand whether or not they were autistic or had ADHD and what impact that was having on some of their risk and some of their vulnerability factors. So they paid for us to do the training. And then that literally led on to us offering private assessments then because we realised, I think, if we were going to maintain a multidisciplinary team of people, that we were going to have to offer private assessments so that we had the breadth of the spectrum. Because if you could imagine, for policing, they were always going to be between a certain age and that kind of thing. Well, if we were going to do justice to it. So we started to offer private services as well. So that's kind of still what we do. So we still offer psychoeducation, we offer support and advice and guidance and that kind of thing. We offer professional training, and we've got that diagnostic, that clinical service as well. And that's kind of where we are now over 10 years.
it
Yeah.
sounds it sounds tremendous, especially in the world that especially the world that we live in. You're absolutely right. Waiting lists for especially autism diagnosis remain long, especially here in Wales. In my experience, um, as you no doubt know, I was diagnosed at 16. So a very, very long time. And you mentioned as well, that delivering training to Heathrow Airport and lecturing at universities. What was what were those experiences like? And I'd imagine especially the folks at Heathrow Airport, they must have been very very receptive to what you have to say, and I kind of base that. I've been around Heathrow Airport more times than I can count, and I as a neurodivergent individual myself, it is such a it is so easy getting around the airports and asking for any assistance that is necessary.
That's
So
good.
what
That's
were
good.
those experiences like?
Well, I've always enjoyed them. I mean, Heathrow to me, and I've told them this recently, has always been a pleasure because they've always treated me like I'm a customer of theirs. When actually it's the other way around, isn't it? They're my customer. But they've always made me feel very welcome and very valued. And I've always loved that about working with them. And the fact that, all these years later, I'm still in touch with them and still working with them on different projects is lovely. Really, that's, kind of shown the longevity at least of the relationship, and that it's been really positive. It's been hard at times because obviously COVID hit them really, really hard, so they did lose staff during that period of time. But yeah, they've always been extremely embracing of it, really kind of open to learning it more. Of course, at the airport, I think they've got something like 75,000 people working there, Rhys. It's huge. It's
Whoa.
like a city, yeah, in itself. So, I've often been then really kind of aware that with that kind of numbers of people, that autism then that affects at least 1% of them is actually quite a lot of people working at the airport who are somehow relating to autism, either they're neurodivergent themselves or their children are, and so on. So actually it's in itself kind of really valued and valuable from that point of view. But then they've also got the people traveling through the airport like you, and that's also something then that they have kind of started to consider and think about how they need to help people through that process, because it is super stressful. Remembering your passports,
Mm.
getting there on time, all of the processes, the security element of it. It can be a lot, I think, if you are traveling as a neurodivergent person or you're a parent of neurodivergent children. I think there is an anxiety around that, which they're trying very hard to sort of make easier for people. So no, it's been really, really good. I've lectured at universities a couple of times and I've always loved that as well. Obviously, I did lecture on the Masters in Autism years ago, which of course you did yourself, Rhys. So amazing. Always been brilliant. They had brilliant students, and that's how I met Emma. Of course, Emma was in her first year when I guest lectured. So it brought me that amazing journey that we've been on together. But more recently, because I'm doing a PhD, I've been lecturing again, and that's just been incredible. And I've been so blown away. Now it's third year degree students doing policing and criminology, and they're just incredible. They're so mature and, really kind of the kind of people that you would want to see attracted into that role. I would say they're very committed, and it's a very positive experience. And I suppose the more people that know about this, the better, isn't it, for all of us in the neurodivergent community? Because, again, we're trying, I suppose, to make life a little bit easier for us, to reduce some of those health inequalities, those social barriers. And that's why we're so passionate, Rhys, isn't it, about letting everyone know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, good is the answer to that. My experience has been very, very positive. Yeah.
I know. I've been lucky enough to know Emma, your team member, through the MSc in autism, and you have an outstanding team at Outside. Could you tell us about them and their backgrounds?
Yeah, no, love to. Well, like you said, Emma was doing her masters at the time, and is a very, very positive role model, I think, for us all in so many
Tremendous.
ways, and a parent herself to.
As are you. As
Oh,
are you.
thank you. I try to be. I'm naughtier than Emma, I think. Emma has always been someone who's really got a lot of
Need a
integrity,
bit of
whereas
naughtiness in the world.
yeah, we do. I'm cheeky. I bring the cheeky humor, I think, to the team. But yeah, she's been amazing. She's taught me so much. So the two of us wanted to attract the right people with the right values. I think that's kind of mattered to us really more than anything else. And it does matter. I think people, we need to have people who are patient and compassionate and caring and are able to put the children or young person or adults' needs first. And that takes a lot, actually, to find those kind of people with those kind of values. But we've been really fortunate to do that. So there's Emma and I. My husband works for us as well. So Chris, he did a master's in psychology a few years ago, but is a chemist by trade. He's got a PhD in organic chemistry and had worked in cancer research for a while. So he comes at it from a very scientific perspective, I think, if I'm being honest, but it adds huge value to us. And we've got Amy. Amy I've known for all my life as well, pretty much. So we've been friends for a long time. And Amy and I had worked at the National Autistic Society together. So Amy is there as our customer sort of a service manager. She manages people's inquiries and that kind of thing. So I often joke she's the most competent out of us all. She's someone who's super organised, which is something Emma and I are not so good at. So that's, having her on board is amazing.
Myself included.
Honestly, I don't know how she does it. Corrals us all into some kind of efficiency, really, Rhys. She's amazing. So yeah, she's brilliant.
Need somebody like that in life. I think all of us do. That person for me has got to be my mum. To be honest, she manages to organize, help. Well, she's taught me a lot in organizing my life out of chaos, and she's still teaching me even now at age 34.
And she loves you to bits. She thinks you're amazing, Rhys. She does, 100%. And all the things you've done as well, the football. I mean, anything that you do, I think you just bring this passion and energy to. So I can imagine her being so proud. Yeah. And my mum's like that too.
I'm sure I can say the same of Amy. I'm sure she is so proud.
She's lush, and she very kindly organises us, so we're really grateful for her, for sure. And then we're lucky we've got 3 clinical psychologists that work for us. So we're really lucky, and they've got years of experience, 2 of them. One of them is more recently qualified, but I've known her for a very long time, and I've seen her at Saturday clubs and summer camps that we've run where she was volunteering. She's phenomenal. So they're all incredible, really, in terms of their knowledge and what they bring to the team. And then we've also got a speech and language therapist who I've known, again, for a very long time, very talented, very knowledgeable. And there is a lady that works for us who is a counsellor too. So one of the things that she brings is that ability to kind of really offer a very psychologically safe place for the assessments to happen, and to kind of talk to people about their thoughts, their feelings, and to do that in a very gentle way. She's great at that. And we're just, hoping to bring on an occupational therapist as well to help the team. So we're growing all the time in that way. Yeah. But again, like I said, the most important thing to us has been finding the right people that can gel, that bring the right values, because it's, the most important thing for us, really.
Absolutely, and absolutely critical to delivering, a wide array of services. And again, I cannot speak highly enough of Outside Education. I hope it's okay with you, Donna. I'm more than happy putting the link to your webpage in the video description for anybody to check out. Thoroughly encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast, please check out Outside Education. I've been lucky enough to know Donna for years now. Back when my hair wasn't so grey. I hope you still can't tell that my hair is greying.
No, it does not grey. I was going to say, I remember when you worked at the NAS and we worked together then. and you were just brilliant. You were like a ball of fun there, where you were like wanting to help all the time or get, yeah, every time you came in, it was a great day, to be fair. It was lush.
Well,
So
that
that was a
was
while ago.
those days were fun. Yeah, no, I was so thankful to have that opportunity. And I'd also like to have a big shout out to um, Matthew Ferg Matthias, if he's watching this. He was a big ball of fun. We had a right laugh back in those days, and but yeah, no, NES was such an important time in my career, and really enjoyed my time there. And as we've kind of like touched upon before, Outside is doing a lot of good for neurodivergent people. What do you think services out there, or new services that are popping up, like Neath Autism Hub, for example, um, uh, organizations like that? What do you think that they can do to improve infrastructure for not only autistic people but neurodivergent people as a whole?
I love Erin and Sue. They're just amazing, and again, meeting them was a
Okay,
real
biased side, me too.
lush. Yeah. I just, wow. And again, it comes from a place of having gone through it and then wanting to leave a legacy for other people to find that whole thing a lot easier. And that's, just beautiful, really, isn't it? So yeah. And I think there's a place for the hub to be at, anything that is about services, really public facing services, so that what they decide upon is co-produced, and that voice is a part of that, isn't it? And we always say, oh yeah, the consultant and things like that, but actually it is really difficult, I think, for neurodivergent people to participate if the process isn't accessible. And that's been something that I've found in the past, expecting neurodivergent people like us, Rhys, to get into a room where it's noisy, where it's loud, where there's a lot of people, and be able to kind of talk about what our needs are is actually quite a big ask. So it does
Absolutely.
need to be a process that's easy for us to inform. But I think, it's really valuable to be there when anything is commissioned, whether that's a school or, something else, even the police services, really, all of that, being able to kind of call them and ask for help and register sort of any concerns that you might have if a crime is committed or whatever. It can be so difficult for us to do. We don't think enough about how we can allow that to happen, so that people do feel that they are safe and that they're valued in the community. So there's that. And then you've got what they do in order to help other neurodivergent people. And I think we do learn so well off each other. And I do think we gravitate together. I think we feel safer and more understood when we're in a community. So it's really important that we have these spaces to feel a part of something, isn't it? That we've got somewhere where we belong, somewhere that we can share our interests and our passions and do that in a safe way, and learn new skills and that sort of thing. I think parents are often left too long. These waiting lists are huge. So it would be good to just have access to, psychoeducation support hubs, regardless of whether you're diagnosed or not. Because actually, the sooner that you can start to learn this stuff, I bet you and I are still learning, Rhys, and we've been doing this for years. But I bet we meet someone new and we think, oh my God, I never thought about that in that way. So this is a lifelong
Absolutely.
thing that we have, isn't it? The sooner that we get people on board, they're starting to learn, they're starting to reflect, all of that is so important. So waiting until they get to the top of a waiting list really isn't the way forward, I don't think. And the other thing about it that I feel really strongly about, Rhys, is understanding your profile, because like when you get a diagnosis of something, it then is the start of really understanding yourself. It's not the end. So you had an autism diagnosis. I've got an ADHD diagnosis, but I bet you've got ADHD characteristics, and I know I've got autistic ones. Do you know? So actually, we need that to be meaningful for us in terms of our own individual profile of neurodivergence and what helps us, isn't it? So I think
Absolutely.
that is something that we need to explore a bit more as well, rather than
So,
going, oh, you've been diagnosed and off you go. Actually, well, what does that mean for me? Is sometimes a question that we need some help answering.
yeah, it's funny you should mention that. I have kind of like noticed that part of my identity and part of my profile that there are features of ADHD that do apply to me. Like, I kind of like regard it as sort of like part of autism, that I vocalize a thought. Apologies for interrupting you then just now, but again, aspect of my brain. Yeah, my sometimes my brain does think, like way ahead, and I can go off on a million miles an hour, like David Tennant's Doctor. Um, to be honest, and I wouldn't necessarily put that down to many an hour watching David Tennant as the Doctor. To be
It's a good choice, though. David Tennant as the Doctor is definitely a good one, for sure.
No, he really is, isn't he?
Yeah.
In fact, I heard somebody, friend of mine, saying the other day, David Tennant's Doctor, definitely neurodivergent ADHD. Perhaps he may be, who knows? But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think I think it's all about sort of like understanding that profile, and how your neurodivergence impacts upon upon your life. I think that there's a lot more scope to understanding that.
Yeah.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you on this podcast today. I'm sure I speak for everybody watching this podcast when we thank you sincerely for your insights and your thoughts, especially on Outside and neurodivergent conditions.
Oh, you're welcome, Rhys, anytime. Honestly, absolute pleasure. So, and I hope this podcast goes well and everyone enjoys it, but I'm sure they will. So thanks for having me. It's been brilliant.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And